This is going to be my top 10 books of 2020. I guess I just wanted to say that 2020 has been like this fantastic reading year for me. I forgot I was going to check before I started filming this. I think I've read like 130 something books this year, which is crazy. And like I didn't keep track the last few years, like while I was in school. But to like be able to have all this time to read and to read for fun and to really enjoy it has been like this huge blessing. And I'm really excited about it. And I'm excited about the top 10 books that I read this year. And I'm going to talk about them from 10 to my favorite book. Also, sorry if the lighting is off, I'm sorry. I normally film in front of like a big window that I have in my living room. But it is super rainy and cloudy today, so the natural light is not hitting. And I'm hoping that this is okay. I guess I'll get into it. I have my list right here because I kept it on my phone. Okay, the 10th best book of 2020 is I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I loved this. I think something that happened this year for me is that I really started to read and enjoy thrillers, and I guess this is one of 2 thrillers on this list, but I loved it. Like, it was so good. This book is about a guy and a girl in a car, and it's in the girl's head, and she's thinking of anything, so they're going to visit his parents for the first time. And it like progresses from there, and it's like a psychological thriller, and it's really good. I tabbed a lot, which doesn't always mean something. Like, some of these books I didn't tab a lot, because like either I didn't start tabbing books until the end of the year, or because there's too much to highlight and underline and tab that I just didn't want to try. You know, there's a toss-up. But anyway, that was a tangent. This book like really made me think, and I was enthralled. Like, I think I read this in a reading vlog, so go watch that. But yeah, I really, really liked it. I liked like, you're just so stressed, and you feel creeped out, and you don't know why, like, the entire time. And it was brilliant. Like, the writing is incredible. And so, yeah, that's my 10th favorite book that I read this year. Alright, the next book on my top 10 favorite books, my 9th book, is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. This book made me cry a lot. It has some of the most beautiful writing that I've ever read in my entire life. I think Hanya Yanagihara has this incredible way with words. I cannot talk about how well written this is, like, for long enough. This is a story about 4 adult friends. You kind of follow them. They meet in college, and you kind of follow them like through the rest of their lives. You don't get too much about their college years, but you do get some. And I think it's really a story about trauma, and I think like also about love, I guess. I don't know. I think this book broke something in me, because now I cry every single time a character in any media form that I'm consuming shows that they care about somebody else. And I think this book did that to me. And I loved it. I think it's so good. Yeah. That's all I have to say about that. The next couple of books I read through Libby. So the 8th book on this list is The Rural Diaries This is Hilarie Burton's memoir that she released this year. And if you don't know who Hilarie Burton is, you probably never watched freaking One Tree Hill. That show's just super nostalgic for me, and Hilarie actually plays my favorite character, maybe of all time, Peyton Sawyer. And she's married to the guy who plays Negan on Walking Dead. He played Denny Duquette on Grey's Anatomy. And they have 2 kids, and this is just like kind of following their life. Like, they bought a farm and they raised their children, and something about like the way that she wrote this memoir, like, I'm a big memoir person, but might be like one of my top 3 that I've ever read. I just think this book was so well written, and I think that she does an incredible job of writing about the things that she's been through. And yeah, I loved this book a lot. It made me want to go buy a farm, and like, it was really good. So, and I listened to the audiobook, so I got to hear her read it, which I think really added to the experience. Yeah, that was that one. And then the next book that I think was one of my top 10 books of the year, my 7th pick, was Cemetery Boys. And this is a story about a trans boy who is kind of trying to prove his identity to his family by demonstrating that he has the magic that gets passed down through their lines, and it's very gendered, and so he like does the ceremony on himself so that he can prove that prove his identity to his family, and then he accidentally raises the wrong ghost from the dead, and he falls in love with the ghost, okay? And they are the cutest couple ever. And I think that the author does such a good job, like, developing both of the characters, and also, like, the familial aspects. Like, the main character has a cousin who's like his best friend, and she is really present in the story, and I really liked it. That's why it's on this list. It was really entertaining and meaningful, and it just packed a punch, and I was like rooting for the love story the whole time, and the ending was like fast-paced and fun and exciting, and it was just a really good book. So yeah. The next book on this list is The City We Became, by N.K. Jemisin, and I love this book, okay? It's an urban fantasy about, so in this fantasy world, all cities have like an avatar, or like a person who is the city. And because New York is so big and so diverse, all of the different boroughs have a person, and it's about New York becoming a city. And there's a lot of like fighting against this bad person or thing. I don't know. It's a fantasy, so it's like hard to talk about, like hard to explain some of this stuff. But I loved this. I loved the cast of characters. It was really kind of like a found family. I liked how different all the characters were. I liked being able to like read from everyone's perspective. And I think that the world was built so well. Like, it was fantastic. And I never read anything like it. Like, this is the only urban fantasy I've ever read, and I definitely want to read more, I guess. But it was so good. So good. And so, yeah, that is why it's on this list. I loved it a lot. Yeah. Okay, the next book I read I was going to say the next book I read this month. First of all, I didn't read this month. Second of all, this is not that video. The fifth best book of 2020 for me, personally, was Get a Life, Chloe Brown. This is a romance about Chloe and Red. And Chloe has a chronic illness, and she has a near-death experience that's not related to her illness, but she realizes that she needs to get a life, okay? She's like, okay, I need to move out of my parents' house, and I need to... she makes a list, and she's like trying to complete her list. And Red is her building superintendent, and for some reason she doesn't like him. They like butt heads, but then they don't butt heads and they fall in love, and it's so cute. And I think like you're really invested in the relationship, but I also think one of the really great things about this book is that you care about the characters and their development as well. Like you want to see them both thrive like together and on their own. And I love them. They were both great characters, super well developed and fleshed out, and their like romance was also so good. And so yeah, I love this book and I put it on my top 10 list. The next book on this list is Know My Name by Chanel Miller, and this is another memoir that I listened to on audiobook. It's about so Chanel Miller is the Jane Doe from the Brock Turner case. So she was sexually assaulted. She woke up and she had no memory of what had happened, and she was in like a rape clinic, and it just tells her story like from that moment into through the court case, and it was super powerful and poignant, and I think really important for me to read, for everyone to read, really. I think the way that Chanel writes and tells her story was perfect and really well done, and I think that you should read this book. I really liked it, and this is really, it's like stuck with me all year, or since I read it. I guess I read it in friggin' October or something. But alright, anyways, the next book, my third favorite book of the year, was With a Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. And this shit slapped. Like this is a book about Imani, who is a teen mom, and she loves to cook, and it does some really unique things. Like normally books or TV shows or movies or whatever about teen pregnancy or like being a teen mom feature pregnancy and then birth, but this like jumps in, and I think her daughter is like 2 or 3, and so you get to see her parenting, and you get to see her relationship with her grandma, and there's like a tiny bit of romance, but it's really about her and her coming of age, and it was beautifully written. And I listened to this on audiobook, and so I loved the narration as well, and I don't know, I loved this book so much. I loved these her character in specific, and it's the first, maybe only book that I've ever read that made me feel like she was really a teenager. I don't know if that makes sense, but like there were just like small details in there that people like kind of gloss over sometimes when they are writing books about people's senior years or whatever. Like the author includes a detail about the FAFSA, or however you say that. And that's something that every teen that's going into college knows about, and everyone who needs to do who needs monetary aid in their college experience fills it out. And so, like, having that detail included was, like, I don't know. And there were a lot of other details like that, but that's just an example. And it was sublime. I loved this book so much. Yeah. Okay. Number 2, I guess. We're almost done with this video. That's so exciting, guys. The next one that I want to talk about is Assassin's Quest. I rediscovered that I like fantasy. I guess it's rediscovered that I like fantasy this year. And first I was doing that with Game of Thrones, which you're like, okay, you know, it's good writing, whatever. These books, the freaking Farseer trilogy, Robin Hobb, like, magical. This is the 3rd book in the Farseer trilogy. And this trilogy just follows Fitzchivalry Farseer, from when he's 6 to when this book ends. I don't really know how old he is. Like, you just kind of know. Anyway, and he is the bastard son of a prince in this kingdom. The 6 duchies. That's what it's called. And this book, the 3rd one, follows him. I can't spoil it. Like, I don't want to spoil these books. So I can't really go into too much detail about what the 3rd one is about, but I loved it. I loved the development of Fitz while he's on his journey. I loved that we got to meet new characters, but we also got to see Fitz and his, like, pals from before and see how he was bonded with them. And I loved the relationships that were formed in this. And everyone, Fitz is perfect. Well, no, he's not. He's not perfect. He got some flaws. But we love him anyway. But everyone loves him so much. Everybody cares about him so much, and they want him to succeed. And so seeing them do that, seeing them love him, and then also, like, showing that and seeing how much he cares about everybody in his life and how much he values them, I loved it. So good. Like, these books, it's crazy how good they are, okay? I don't even know how to talk about them. Like, I love them. I want to always be reading them. I think about Fitzchivalry Farseer almost as much as I think about Peace by Taylor Swift being about Josh and Donna from The West Wing, okay? All the time. And so I loved this book. I loved all of these books, but I think I loved this one the most, which is surprising, honestly. When I looked at my list and I was like, I wrote the Assassin's Quest, or not but whatever. On this, I thought I wrote Assassin's Apprentice, which is the 1st book, but apparently I love this one more, so 2nd best book, but really the whole series, okay? And then, friggin' drumroll, please. My favorite book, my top book that I read in 2020 was Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. This is a thriller about Camille, who is a journalist, and there are murders happening in her hometown, and so she goes back to stay with her mom and her little sister, and she's, like, covering the story, and there's, like, they're trying to figure out who's killing these girls, but there's also, like, a Munchausen's by proxy plot a little bit. I, like, don't have words for how much I loved this book. The different plots and the, like, I think my favorite thing, though, is Camille has this really great relationship with her editor at the paper. And he's like a father to her. Okay? And it's the best relationship like that I've ever read. No other author is doing it like Gillian Flynn is doing it in this book, okay? Sorry, at a loss for words. I just think about that relationship specifically all of the time. And I love the other parts of this book. That's why it's my fave. But I think what makes it is that relationship that Camille has with her editor. I can't remember his name. Last name is Curry. And it's crazy how that relationship develops because she's in her hometown the whole time. And it's just, you see him at the beginning and then you see them through phone calls. And it's so obvious how much he cares about her. I guess I should just stop talking about this book, but know that I love it so much, and I think that everyone should read it. Yeah, that's all. I guess that's the end of the video. I just want to thank y'all for watching, and like, even though most of my videos get like at most 20 views, it's still so fun to sit and make these and edit them and upload them, and to like talk about books that I love. So thanks for doing that in 2020, you know? Thanks for encouraging me to read. It's just been like a really fun time over here on this tiny little corner of the internet. Yeah, that was my top 10 books of 2020. I hope you enjoyed. That was a stupid thing to say, so